Hi, everyone. I'm Michelle with the Sleep Coach School. Welcome back for another open class. And today I'm joined by Coach Beth. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Michelle. How you doing?
I'm good. Great to see you. I was happy you were able to join us today for our last open class before the holidays.
Yes, perfect.
Nice to get one last one before everybody kind of disperses.
Absolutely.
So let's take a look at some of the questions that we have today. Right. So our first question, I guess, is not really even a question, but it's more of an update and some thoughts that I thought that we could discuss and maybe provide Diana with some of our thoughts about the path she's been on and about where she's going. So with that, I'm going to read what Diana wrote into us with. She says, 2 days ago, I bought Daniel's book, Set It and Forget It. I've struggled with insomnia for 5 years now. I think it has lasted so long because of misinformation. I have tried various methods, and because I know that any method can take some time, I've patiently given each one several months or more to take effect, thus accumulating to nearly 5 years. The most legitimate being Colleen Ernstrom's CBT-I book. I faithfully followed all the steps in tracking. After 5 months of strict sleep restriction in 2018, I still did not make peace with sleep. I think all the rules about CBT-I made me even more obsessed and stressed. The other methods that I gave substantial time to are all the ones mentioned in your videos: herbs, teas, diet plans, exercise plans, sleep hygiene, and finally prescription medication, which I really resisted but submitted to out of desperation. In the end, none of those methods worked. I have a happy and healthy family life, a supportive husband, and I am generally calm and controlled person in all aspects except for this sleep. I am looking forward to applying the principles in your book to change my situation and, most importantly, my attitude. Well, thanks for writing in, Diana. And to start off, I'd love to pass it over to Beth. So what do you think about some of the challenges that Diana's listed here and about the path she's hoping to go on?
Yeah, some really familiar challenges here, right?
Oh, yeah.
I think we've both been down very similar path, Diana, and I really want to recognize all of the courage and the heart you've put in to bettering your life. I think that both Michelle and I understand the emotional, roller coaster and the emotional toll that can come with being so dedicated to implementing all of these different things and then getting your hopes up, and then having them fall when it doesn't work. And I think with sleep restriction, especially, this can be a whole episode just on sleep restriction. But I tend to agree with this assessment of sleep restriction. And it seems like people can kind of go down one of two paths with sleep restriction. And it seems like, it can work really, really well. And people really invite that structure and that, guidance and just not having to figure out what to do. And there can be some benefits that come with that. And then there's this other group, which was me. And I know it was you too, Michelle.
Oh, yeah.
That it's sort of the opposite happens. And it's like, oh my God, the pressure, it becomes more, the stress, the obsession. And then ultimately this just disappointment when that happens, because you feel like, well, what's wrong with me? This gold standard treatment's not working for me. What does that mean, in terms of getting better? So, I mean, what's your take on sleep restriction and why that doesn't work, Michelle? Like the reasons why that doesn't work.
Yeah, so I completely agree. I fell into that camp as well. CBT-I did not work for me. Sleep restriction just really increased my anxiety and made my insomnia at the time a lot worse. And so I completely understand also that feeling of, if you fail the gold standard, really, what does that mean? It means that, oh my gosh, maybe I am broken. And of course, none of that's true. And one of the main reasons why CBT-I doesn't work for so many people is because it doesn't actually address the root cause of insomnia, which is really about fear. And it's that fear driving all the hyperarousal. And Whereas CBT-I is really a structured approach, which is really working on circadian rhythm and sleep drive. And it's really all about that sleep drive piece. Whereas most insomniacs don't really have any sort of issue with sleep drive. We have tons and tons of excess sleep drive. We could give it away, right?
Right.
We have way too much of that. And it's really that hyperarousal piece, which is being driven by fear, that is coming in. And that's that piece, which is so foundational, is really not addressed in more classic CBT-I programs. And so I think that's the challenge. So, and, you know, when I was reading Diana's words, I really resonate with the 5 years, because I spent 5 years with my insomnia. And when she was listing up the long list of things that she did, oh, but Diana, I've done all those things.
Yeah.
And other, you know, I don't think I've ever made a list, because I don't even want to see the list, because it was so long.
So long.
And I completely, I took a similar approach as Diana was mentioning, where you want to give something enough time. You don't want to do it in a couple days. You want to give it time. So I was doing a lot of that as well. Well, let me give this a month. Let me see how this goes. And then you end up in this pattern of just kind of cycling to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing endlessly. So I have a lot of empathy for that path, because I was on that path for a long time as well. And one thing that kind of stuck out in your words, Anna, was you mentioned kind of towards the end, you said, you know, excuse me, that she said, I'm a really calm and controlled person other than this whole sleep thing. And I thought, oh, interesting. So just like so many of us who struggle with insomnia, you know, she is somebody that probably likes control and is seeking control over her sleep. And of course, the interesting part being that the teachings that she's going to find in Set It and Forget It, the teachings on this channel, are really all about learning tools so that we can let go of control as opposed to gain more control. So just something to think about, Diana, is that most of us are really almost have certain personality types that we really want control. We seek it. We like having control. And this whole sleep thing makes us feel really out of control. And that's part of that problem solving and trying new things, is how can I get more control over this? How can I solve this problem? And as you're about to learn in the book and through this channel, that mentality is something that actually can drive insomnia more and more. And it's all about noticing that. And it's all about asking ourselves if we can start to let go of that control a little bit, since we can't control our sleep as much as we would really, really love to. So I picked up on that word, controlled.
Yeah.
With me, I love control. Control is lovely. Oh, it's like a warm, comforting bath. Like
yeah. And this is just the one part of, you know, of life that is so paradoxical in that it just doesn't respond to control.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, you know, also with Diana's journey, I think that all the things she did previously and the dedication she put, it'll still serve you really well going forward, because you really understand that things don't always happen overnight. It takes some time, and continuing to have the courage to keep going is amazing. And that book, Set It and Forget It, we were talking earlier that, you know, it's kind of like a children's book for adults with insomnia, because of the little illustrations, and it's great. The teachings are short and sweet, and they're so easy to absorb and pick up at any time, and just, you know, sort of re-cement the learnings and the teachings. And so glad you have such a, you know, supportive family, and we're all here supporting you as well. So
we're rooting for you, Diana, and just know that you can absolutely do this and fully recover from insomnia, and that all those ups and downs along the way, it's really helpful if you can be as kind to yourself as possible, as we often forget to do. So self-kindness throughout is really helpful. And of course, if you need any extra support, that's why we're here. You can always head over to the sleepcoachschool.com and check out all the different coaching options, from group program to the app, or one-on-one coaching with myself. So just putting that out there if you do feel the need for any additional support. So with that, let's move on to our next question. Our next question is from Becca. And she says, I stopped sleeping after a stressful life event 2 months ago. My doctor says it's anxiety. I go to bed relaxed, but sleep just doesn't happen. After 48 hours of not sleeping, my doctor prescribed Lexapro for anxiety and Xanax for sleep, which in desperation I took. Now, every night I try to fall asleep without it, but I just don't fall asleep until I take it. And then I get 4 to 6 hours of sleep and I'm foggy and tired all day long. Is there any hope for me? So, Becca, first of all, yes, of course, there is absolutely so much hope for you. Please don't give up on hope. I know it can feel like there isn't a lot of hope around this issue, but there absolutely is. And your story is going to resonate with so many people because oftentimes insomnia can start because of that initial stressful life event. Something happens, and all of a sudden we're not sleeping, and it's never happened before. And so it's very, very normal for our insomnia to start for one reason, such as a stressful life event, but actually continue on for another reason. Because in your case, the stressful life event has passed, but the insomnia is still here. And oftentimes that happens because when that stressful life event happens and we stop sleeping, we react to insomnia in a way that unfortunately perpetuates the fear around not sleeping. And we unknowingly start to teach our brain that not sleeping is really scary and it's a really big threat. And we keep responding in that way, unknowingly teaching our brain this. And then when the life event kind of passes us by, we still have this insomnia. And like you mentioned, Becca, you're going to sleep feeling relatively relaxed and thinking, what's going on here? And a lot of the times it's because that fear program in your brain is now running on autopilot. And so that happens with so many of us. And that's why it can feel so confusing, where you can feel calm in the moment and still be up all night thinking, well, what's going on? I'm not even, feeling very stressed or worried. But our brain's running that same autopilot program, which is that it has learned a lot of fear around being awake at night, sometimes sleep itself, or even just the nighttime, all of it, the whole experience. And so it's really important that we know that the brain is always trying to learn from us. And on the one hand, while it can really learn a lot of fear, the good news is it can unlearn that fear, and that it's always looking to keep learning from us. And because of this, our response to our own sleeplessness becomes really, really important. And our response is basically our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions. And all of those things can literally change the structure and the function of our brain, which is, to me, kind of blows my mind. It is so impressive that that is the case. And we basically can harness that power and help our brains really unlearn a lot of the fear that it's learned around sleeping and not sleeping, most importantly. And so I wanted to kind of start there and say to you, Becca, that, it makes sense where you're at. It's very common for these things to start for one reason and to continue for another. But you can start now by really starting to notice how you are responding to your insomnia, how you're showing up, and know that you can start working on some of those responses to start shifting your brain out of that autopilot fear program that it seems to be running every single night. So what do you think, Beth? I know that you can relate to Becca. I can relate to Becca.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And, just the second part of the question around every night trying to fall asleep without medication. And I think this is such a tricky area too, because this is something that we do, we sort of unintentionally create more insomnia by doing the wait and see approach.
Yes.
And it's again, our intentions are in the right place. Like, we want to get off these medications. We really want to be able to sleep without medications. And so we go to sleep in hopes of not taking it. And what that does is sort of create more self-monitoring. Am I going to be able to sleep without the medication? Am I asleep yet?
Yeah.
Is this going to be the night I don't need it? And it's in that wait and see and that trial that we end up after, a week of that, we think, well, not taking medication's not working, when it's not that as much as it is all the monitoring that comes with kind of doing the wait and see approach. And so I think, and, you know, we're not doctors and we can't give medical advice. This is just our thoughts and opinions on it. But I think sometimes just making a decision to either stick with the medication or decide to go off the medication and going that route instead of the wait and see route can be really helpful, because it does create a little bit more problem solving and monitoring around sleep. That was the other thing that came up for me. And also I think too, when we're going off of medication, I mean, Lord knows I took everything. And there is a recalibration period for the brain, I think, you know, and just letting the brain do its thing and knowing that it knows what it's doing. It's always striving for balance and homeostasis and calibrating in your, you know, in your best interest, and letting it do that, you know, just letting it do its thing, kind of reframing that could also be helpful too.
Yeah, no, that's such a good point. And we always like to talk about medication from the perspective of self-care, right? Whether you choose to go off of it or choose to stay on it, if you view it as something you're doing out of self-care, it becomes really, really helpful. So there's no negativity or conflict around taking medication, and that's really helpful too. And know that it's okay. And if you can see it as almost like another rung on the ladder as you're climbing.
Right.
That's, you know, and that's it. As opposed to stress and the shoulds and all of that kind of stuff. So
yes.
All right. So I hope that helps. Feel free to write us any follow-up questions in the chat below. And with that, we're going to move on to our final question. It's from Davy, and he says, "Hi, Coach Daniel or Coach Michelle. I've been having a bit of a speed bump. For most of the week, I sleep over at my girlfriend's house, and I sleep fine, even if I have sleep anxiety throughout the whole day. But Wednesdays and Thursdays, I stay at home, and I can't seem to sleep in my own home alone. I stay up most of the night with intense hyperarousal symptoms, feeling hopeless and scared, thinking that I will never get over my insomnia and sleep anxiety. My insomnia journey has been going on and off for about a year now, although I sleep great most nights. I still cannot shake these negative sleep thoughts throughout the whole day, and I get super anxious about Wednesdays and Thursday nights. Please help. Thank you." So Davy, certainly not an uncommon story. We definitely do hear this all the time. And so Beth, what do you think about some of the challenges that Davy is facing right now?
Yeah, you know, when I read this, this to me, the first thing that came to mind is it's almost like special event insomnia, you know, where, you know, you're mostly sleeping okay with the exception of when there's something outside your normal everyday life. And then all of a sudden, you know, that fear kind of kicks in. In this case, however, it's sleeping at home, which is a little bit different. And I think the same teachings apply here. I mean, my guess is that the good news is that you're sleeping really well for most of the week. So that's great. That's wonderful evidence that, you know, your brain knows how to sleep just fine. And there's something around Wednesdays and Thursdays and sleeping alone in your home. And my guess here is that at some point in time, you know, the mind made a decision or created a belief around sleeping alone. I'm just guessing here, but there was something around that, and that led to, you know, a fear around that. And then over time, that just became an automatic program that the brain just anticipates. You know, probably on Tuesday, there's already some nervousness around, am I going to sleep Wednesday and Thursday in my own home alone? So I think sometimes just understanding that this is what, you know, just knowing that the brain has created this pattern, this program around being at home and sleeping alone, and even reframing it. If it is something around sleeping alone, I don't know for sure if it is, it could be something about sleeping in the home, even reframing that even though I would rather be sleeping with my partner, it doesn't mean I can't also sleep alone and sleep just fine alone. So sometimes just knowing that your brain is just running this program on automatic, it isn't necessarily true. It's just become a learned response over time, can be helpful in just sort of interrupting that pattern. What about you? What else, Michelle?
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's also about the response initially, right? We have that first night on a Wednesday or a Thursday where, you know, he didn't sleep.
Yeah.
He felt horrible. And then he started to make the connection between, oh, I didn't sleep and I was at home alone. And then that
Exactly.
connection grows. It's like, then the pattern is there.
Yeah.
And we're aware of a pattern, and the pattern is stressful. And then we kind of, can't help but kind of reinforce the pattern every single time. And then we convince ourselves, this is the pattern. I'm stuck in this pattern. There's no way out of this pattern. When really, part of it is our brain loves to see these patterns and convince ourselves of these types of things. And so yeah, I love that idea of like kind of questioning that and taking a step back from it and knowing that it's going to take time, because just like insomnia that has nothing to do with an anticipatory event, right? Your brain has learned fear around, in this case, sleeping alone in your home and not having your girlfriend there. And so it is the same process, even though it's maybe directed slightly differently, but it's the same fundamental process. And the other thing I thought was, I do think it's also very normal for a lot of us, especially if we're sleeping with our partners, to get used to that and to end up feeling a little bit more safe when we're beside somebody that we love.
Right.
And so I think it's normal for that to be like a comfort for a lot of us, and to miss that comfort when it's not there. The difference being that the lack of that comfort is, in this case, coming along with not sleeping at all, right? It's opposed to going, I prefer sleeping with my girlfriend, but I can also sleep by myself. So I think it's something that your brain can unlearn, just like all of them. And I do think it starts with starting to become more aware of what your reactions are to being awake at night when you are alone in your house, and start to tune into what are the thoughts that are coming forward, what are the feelings, what are the physical sensations, what are some of the behaviors I'm doing at night, maybe what am I reaching for, all of that, and start to know that, that your response to this is going to shape the fear response. It's going to either kind of alleviate that hyperarousal and teach your brain that sleeping alone is okay, or it can, again, unknowingly increase the hyperarousal and reinforce that this is a scary thing. And so I think once we know that we have that influence in that area, we can start to work with that and kind of reinforce to ourselves that like we're safe when we're sleeping alone still. And this was something I dealt with as well. I was thinking when I read your question, Davy, fairly early on during my insomnia journey, I stopped sleeping in the same bed with my husband because I was up constantly. It was so disruptive. So it was something we definitely had to do because I was really disrupting his sleep a lot. And so it was helpful in that sense. However, I really had not slept alone in years. And I remember thinking kind of, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to sleep alone. I felt a lot of, like, I didn't feel comfort. I felt uneasy. It was a very different emotional experience to lay in a bed alone after you're so used to having your partner beside you. So I had to go through a process with myself on this as well, kind of teaching myself to feel okay and to feel safe laying in a bed alone. So that's part of it, is just know that this can take a bit of time, and it's normal to feel how you're feeling, and it's a process basically, but that you can absolutely do this. And the other thought I had was, he was mentioning a lot of, really fear-based thoughts during the day, kind of all day long, a lot. And he was saying, I can't shake these thoughts. I can't shake them. I can't get rid of them. And my first thought was, the problem is that you're trying to shake them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, Davy, if you can kind of see some of these thoughts as your fear-based brain kind of you like an alarm to try to warn you of something really dangerous. And the more you try to ignore and shake it off and have them not be there, sometimes the alarm will get a little bit louder. And so I wonder what would happen if you took some time to intentionally listen to the thoughts. Now, not reading into them that they are true. That's not what I mean, but I mean creating space for them. And one of my favorite ways to do this is journaling. And or you could think of it as a constructive worry practice, where you choose, maybe 15 minutes out of your day, and you just write down all of these really fear-based anxious thoughts, you get them out on paper. And, you know, it really helps to show your brain that you're willing to create space for some of these concerns and hear your brain. And oftentimes that helps the brain kind of ease up on the constant production of those kind of ruminating thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. I've taken to lately talking in the car to myself.
Yeah.
I was talking, I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling this, and I'm feeling this. And it gives your emotions and your thoughts somewhere to go, you know, and express them and let them have a voice. And I think any way you can just, process them and in a way that, you know, you can work with them instead of trying to push them away, instead of trying to get rid of them, because we'll never be able to do that. So, and figuring out a way to work with them that's helpful.
That's such a good point. Vocalizing them can be something to do. I do this on walks sometimes myself, and
I do too.
On walks. Then if I run into people, I'll like, oh no, you know, like, did they notice that I was doing that? So
that is
helpful sometimes to just vocalize some of the thoughts that are going on in your head.
Yeah.
And,
I'm so glad to know I'm not the only
people think.
Yeah, I'm not the only one that does that on walks.
I do that a lot on walks. I've always done it, and it does look crazy, but it's helpful.
But it helps. It helps.
Yeah. You gotta do you.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So, Davy, I hope that helps. As always, feel free to send us a follow-up comment or question in the chat below. And that's it for our questions today. So I just want to thank you, Beth, for coming and doing this open class with me today.
Yes, thank you for having me. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. And for everyone out there, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.